Do you dream of a sewing room that looks like this, but yours looks like this? Did you spend last weekend organizing everything in your sewing space, but this week it now looks like this again? Are you searching for that magical container that will fix all your craft room problems? The key to a functioning creative space is having the right place for everything. Unfortunately, we all make mistakes when organizing our sewing space. Here are 9 common ones and how to fix them. So stick with me and I'll show you how to do it. Hi, I'm Karen Brown of Just Get It Done Quilts. I give you tips, tricks, and strategies to help you make the quilt that you want to make. And if you like what you see, please click that subscribe button. Our hobbies, whether it be quilting, sewing, or any other craft, fills our bucket. Not only do we enjoy doing it is good for us. So we need a space that is functioning, calming, and easy to use. But in the rush and bustle of our lives, it's easy to fall into these common mistakes. TV craft shows have these amazing sets, and makeover videos have these glorious final reveals. Unfortunately, that creates an unrealistic expectation of what an actual functioning creative space looks like. Mess happens, and that is where the fun is. You're losing yourself in the creativity, the colors, the textures, the patterns. That's what it's all about. It's not stressing about scraps or the threads that have fallen to the floor or wondering where your scissors have disappeared to. So you need to shift your mindset. Forget about having that pristine, Instagram-ready sewing room once a year. Invest your time in making a well-organized space that is a snap to clean up all year long. And I explain how to get your supplies and your tools in the right spots in my video, Organize Your Sewing Space Part 3. And I'll leave a link to that video in the notes. There's a reason why all those room makeover shows start by taking everything out of the room. Because you can't organize clutter. Your space is finite and there's only so much that you can fit into it. Decluttering is about getting out all the unwanted, all the unnecessary, the broken, the less valuable, the duplicates, until it all fits into the capacity of your space. And it's only when all that stuff is out the door that you will have the space both physically and mentally to organize. I have just finished an online 21-day declutter challenge, and it's absolutely amazing the changes it brings. If you would like to try one, I'll leave you a link to the playlist in the notes below. And if you participated in the challenge, please leave a comment in the notes of the changes it brought you. Because we have so much stuff, we often start our floor plans with storage. We add bookcases, drawers, and cupboards, and then end up shoving our sewing machine against a wall, cutting our fabric on the floor, and banishing our iron to the basement. And this means that your space has poor flow. Humans are programmed to conserve energy. So if it's difficult to use or makes us uncomfortable, we will rarely do it or not even bother. So before you head to IKEA for that new Billy bookcase, take a good look at your sewing triangle. That is your sewing machine, your cutting station, and your ironing board. This is the foundation that makes your sewing space work. And the organization of our tools and supplies work around it. And I talked about what you need to consider when making this triangle in my video, Organize Your Sewing Space, Part 1. I even showed you how it can work in a tiny space in Part 4. So typically, in a tidy up video, the YouTuber goes to a drawer or shelf, they take everything out, they toss the broken, the unwanted, and the expired, then they fluff and they put everything back. But they never ask the question, why is it here, right here, in this spot right now. You might think, well, it's always been there, or this is the only shelf that it fits, or this is where all my rulers go. Your tools should be as close to where they're used as possible, and the ones that you use most should be front and center. Remember, the easier it is to use, the more we'll use it. And additionally, the more likely we are to put it away. How many tidy up shows have you watched where they gather up all the pens or all the scissors or all the thingamabob and then they dump them into a container and put a label on it? I just want to pull my hair out because that doesn't solve the problem. It might look nice and pretty for a second, but the more steps you put between yourself and the tool, the less likely you are to use it. And worse, if they're all dumped in the same place, it doesn't mean it's necessarily easier to find. So you might end up settling for another tool, which might not do the job quite as well. So split them up to the stations where they will be used. If you use them at your ironing board, have a tool spot at your ironing board. If you use them at your sewing machine, put them where they are easily at hand. If they are a tool that you only use occasionally, get them out of the front of the drawer and move them to the back. Be sure to use dividers and shelves. So not only does everything have a home, you can immediately see if something is missing. Have you ever stood in the container aisle of a big box store and just think, I have found the solution to all my needs. I'll just buy 25 of them and I'll never need one again. The problem with the container first approach is that our stuff comes in all shapes and sizes. So you either buy a variety of container sizes, or you'll have half-empty containers, or you'll end up filling up a container with whatever fits, often leading to containers within containers within containers. And your sewing room function and flow goes out the door. Once you have your sewing triangle foundation, then you understand what tools go where. Then it's time for the storage discussion. You want storage that both fits your tools and is easy to access. And it's very unlikely that one container is going to solve all your problems. And it might even be best not even to use containers. Consider dividers in the drawers. You can even make your own containers out of foam board. And I showed you how in my video, Sewing Room Hacks with Foam Board. And I'll leave a link to that in the notes. You might have the best arranged sewing room in the country, but if you can't see your work, it will be difficult to get good results. Unfortunately, we often think of lighting after the electrical outlets are blocked by furniture. In addition, you will need power for your sewing machine and iron, not to mention charging stations for your iPad, your iPhone, maybe even your computer. Power cord management is a real issue, as most of us cannot have the electrical outlets where we need them. You need to get the right extension cord configuration for the job. We often have transformers to accommodate and USB connectors, and it needs to be the right length of power cord as well, so it's not a tripping hazard. They need to be tucked away with channels, Velcro, or ties to prevent them being a tripping hazard. And you want them easy to access and not taking up valuable counter space. There are so many times that we have tools, furniture, and storage solutions that just kind of work, and we just live with the shortfall. But with a little thought and creativity, we can make some adjustments or do a workaround. And they make such a difference, not only in your flow, but how you enjoy your space. That's where my DIY ironing board station came from. I made my own ironing board that sits on top of a rolling rack that I cut to the exact height I needed for me. It has all the storage, and since it's on wheels, I can move it anywhere in the room or even to another room. And with my cordless iron, I can be totally untethered from the wall. Now, this is a fairly big change. There are lots of smaller ones that you can make too, like this accessories caddy that came with my sewing machine. I found it really fussy. I didn't really find it that stable, and it came with these doors that took up a lot of space and were quite fiddly to open. So I took off the doors. Without the doors, everything is easily accessible and it's so much better. Here, my chalk used to fall on the floor all the time, so I had my husband print me a 3D ledge. I added double-sided tape and ta-da! As I've moved around my space, I've asked him to make several other things for me as well. Find the pain points in your flow and find solutions to make it work for you. Just because you organized your space one way last year doesn't mean you need to organize it the same way this year. Our skills change, our equipment and tools change, our tastes change, technology changes, and just life in general changes. So put yourself first. How does your sewing space need to work for you right now? It might need to accommodate a new machine, it might be in a new accessibility issue, it might mean that you need to declutter your space. Your sewing room is where you go for calm, clarity, and creativity. So make the necessary changes so that you can get back to filling your bucket. If you want to check out the other videos in this series, I'll leave a link to the playlist right here. Take care, and I'll see you next time.